Welcome back, yogis, and welcome to my channel if you're new here. This is an energetic vinyasa with advanced sequencing and fluid transitions designed to increase body control, flexibility, and strength simultaneously. So if you're ready to do yoga like a dancer, then let's get started. And we're beginning our practice today by facing the side of the mat, spreading your feet about 3.5 feet apart, and reaching toward the sky on an inhale. As you exhale, folding at the hip and taking a deep forward fold, perhaps taking a bend in the knees here, bringing your hands into the center of the mat to support yourself. Taking a moment at the beginning of the practice to consciously release any energy that no longer serves your highest well-being, leaving the past day, week, month, and year behind you now, and arriving fully in the present moment. Tuning in right now to the way that your breath is traveling in and out through the nose, feeling the breath filling up the abdomen, noticing the rhythm of your breathing naturally as it is without trying to control it, feeling the spine decompress just a little bit more. Perhaps taking a deeper bend in the knees here, and then straightening the knees, feeling the backs of the legs begin to open up. Perhaps swaying a little bit from side to side before you roll to a standing position, one vertebrae at a time on the next breath, reaching again toward the sky, and then bringing hands to heart center. Finding your way to the top of the mat now, rolling the shoulders down away from the ears, and continuing to notice the way that your breath is moving in and out of your nose, lengthening the crown of the head toward the sky, following the rhythm of your own breath. On each inhale, bringing the shoulders closer to the ears and lowering them on each exhale. Establishing the energy of your posture, strong, confident, and stable. As you inhale, rolling up onto the balls of the feet. As you exhale, returning the heels to the floor, feeling grounded into the earth. Again, taking an inhale and rolling up onto the balls of the feet. And this time as you come up onto your toes, we're raising each arm out to the side. Catching a moment of balance here before you then return the arms and the heels to the floor at the same time. On your next inhale, reaching toward the sky, and as you exhale, clasping the left wrist with the right hand, rooting the left heel into the earth and taking a side stretch over to the right. Feeling the left side body open up, then returning to center, and taking your stretch over to the left, clasping the right wrist with the left hand, rooting the right heel of the foot into the floor. Coming back to center on your next breath. Reaching toward the sky, taking a deep inhale, and this time as you exhale, taking a forward fold. Taking a bend in the knee, allowing the spine to continue decompressing as you inhale, finding length in the spine, looking forward. Exhaling, taking a deeper forward fold. Clasping opposite elbows with each hand and coming into a ragdoll. Bringing the awareness right back to the sensation of the breath. Then switching your hands and bringing the opposite arm on top. Continuing to feel the backs of the legs open up a little bit more. And as we continue to slowly warm up the body, we're taking a deep bend in through the knees. On an inhale, reaching through the legs with the left hand, reaching behind the back with that right arm, and opening up that right shoulder as much as possible, clasping the left and right hand behind you as you begin to straighten those knees just a little bit more, opening up that right shoulder a little bit more deeply with each breath. And you're always welcome to keep both knees bent, or you can bring a bend into the left knee. And then releasing the left hand back to the floor, taking a twist, looking up toward the sky as you reach the right hand up, then replacing the right hand back on the floor. On an inhale, taking a flat back, looking forward. Exhaling, back to a forward fold. And we're coming onto the other side, so taking a nice deep bend in through both knees, reaching through the legs with the right arm, and this time reaching behind the back with the left hand and opening up that left shoulder as much as possible. If you feel ready for it again, you can begin straightening out your knees. Option to just bend the right knee if it makes this pose more accessible for you, feeling an even deeper stretch in through the back and the back of the legs. Then replacing the right hand on the floor, looking up toward the sky with the left hand this time in a twist. Then replacing both hands on the floor and coming back into your forward fold, seeing if you can come a little bit more deeply into this fold this time. Flowing into a flat back, looking forward, and then exhaling nose to your knees. Following your breath on the next inhale, waving forward once more, and then exhaling, bringing your nose back to your knees or perhaps to your shins. Taking a deep bend in through the knees here and bringing the right leg behind you into a lunge, bringing that right knee down to the floor, perhaps supporting your right knee with a blanket here if need be. And then we're finding a crescent lunge back bend, lifting the chest toward the sky, always emphasizing the bend in the upper portion of your spine, only going as far as you feel comfortable here at the very beginning of the practice. Slowly coming back up, taking an inhale through the nose, and then as you exhale, beginning to float that right foot off of the floor, perhaps connecting the right foot with the left hand and feeling a deeper stretch in through the right quadricep. And as you continue to let that right hip open up a little bit more along with the right quadricep, go ahead and play around, bringing each hand to the back of the foot individually, seeing which one feels a little bit more accessible to you. Bringing your awareness back to the inhale and the exhale, sending breath into that right hip, and then slowly lowering that right leg back to the floor, flipping the toes over, coming back up into your lunge, and then transitioning back into a downward facing dog, sending the hips high, and allowing the heels to find the floor. Checking the distribution of your weight here by coming up onto the fingertips. Allowing the spine to decompress a little bit more as we open up the backs of the legs, walking out the dog, following your breath, following your own rhythm, and allowing each heel to come up off the floor one at a time. Feeling a stretch in through the side of the body, the sides of the legs. And each time you walk the dog, feeling a little bit more length opening up behind the knees and in the hamstrings. On the next breath, taking a little twist and reaching toward that left ankle with the right hand, feeling that lower back release a little bit more. And then replacing right hand, coming onto the left side, reaching for the right ankle with the left hand, looking up toward the sky. Deep breath, and as you exhale, replacing that left hand again, walking out the dog for 1 or 2 more breaths, continuing to open up the hamstrings. And on your next breath, we're coming into a 3-legged dog on the right side, placing the left foot toward the center of the mat and raising that right foot toward the sky, keeping the right leg straight at first, perhaps keeping the hips squared toward the mat, feeling the stretch through that left leg, and then remembering to keep your weight evenly distributed between both the left and the right hand. Begin bending that right knee and opening the hip more. We're going to take some big circles here, bringing the right foot all the way down, almost to meet the left foot on the floor again, then sweeping the right foot out to the side of you and bringing it right back around to where you started, bending the right knee, keeping the right hip open. And then straightening the right knee, bringing the right foot above you once more. Lowering the right foot, coming onto the left side, bringing the right foot towards the center of the mat, pressing in through the fingertips and extending the left foot high above you, and then opening the hip, opening that left knee and beginning to circle that left foot behind you down to meet the right foot, tapping the floor, holding the rest of your body as still as you can, going slow. As the left foot comes closer toward the floor, straightening the left knee, and then sweeping the left leg out to the side and around, coming back to where you started in an open hip, three-legged dog. Taking a few breaths here with the foot above you and allowing the hips and the back of the hamstring to continue opening up more and more. Straightening and bending the leg, playing around with having your hips squared to the mat and then opening your hips, seeing what feels better for you. And then returning the left foot back to the mat, coming back into your downward facing dog, taking a deep bend in through the knees, and then hopping, floating to the top of the mat. Flat back, looking forward. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, coming into a deep chair pose here. Sitting back as far as you can, checking to see if you can look at your toes over the tops of your knees and finding the alignment, wrapping the shoulders around the back and keeping the biceps next to the ears. Then exhaling, taking a forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Taking a big, refreshing inhale, then stepping back into downward facing dog. Exhaling. Then taking another inhale and exhaling, finding a plank pose, lowering down into chaturanga, and then on the inhale, upward facing dog. And if it feels accessible to you, you can roll over the tops of your toes back into downward facing dog. Taking a deep inhale, and as you exhale, making your way back to the top of the mat, either floating or walking. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling into chair. Taking a few deep breaths here. And then exhaling, forward fold, filling up the belly with breath. Deep inhale through the nose, deep exhale out through the nose. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. This time stepping back with the left leg, coming into a crescent lunge on the left side, bringing the left knee down to the floor, lifting the chest up toward the sky, keeping the shoulders nice and rolled down, and finding a back bend here, supporting yourself with both hands, perhaps letting the back of the foot find the mat. And then lifting the chest as you support yourself to come out of this back bend. Flipping the left toes back over and beginning to float the left foot up toward the left hand, feeling a deep stretch in through the left quadricep and the left psoas. As you inhale, focusing on sending breath into the left hip. Then perhaps challenging your balance here by switching to clasp the left foot with the right hand. Then begin releasing the left foot back to the floor with an engaged left quadricep, flipping the toes over and sending that right leg behind you into a three-legged dog. Taking a deep breath and then opening the hip, bending the right knee, and coming into your wild thing, bending in through the left leg, finding the floor behind you with the right foot, finding the full expression of your pose, sweeping that right arm around you in a big circle. Then bending more deeply in through the right leg to release the pose, replacing your right hand on the mat and coming back into three-legged dog, right foot high above you. On the next breath, bending the right knee, coming into a figure four, crossing the right ankle over the left knee, and sitting back onto the right hip, touching the floor behind you with that left hand, then sweeping it over your head, replacing it on the mat and coming back into three-legged dog. Taking a full expression in your three-legged dog, then bending the right knee in toward the chest in a fluid gesture, planting the right foot in between the hands and rising up on an inhale into Warrior One. Focusing on the breath as you take a big inhale. As you exhale, opening the hands, replacing them on the mat, and coming back into three-legged dog, sending the right foot high. full extension, and then deep inhale, and as you exhale, coming into your three-legged chaturanga, floating toward the mat, inhaling into upward facing dog, exhaling, rolling over the toes into downward facing dog. Inhale, coming up onto the toes, looking forward, and then floating to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling into chair pose. On the next exhale, forward fold. Root to rise, standing tall, reaching toward the sky, and as you exhale, hands come to heart center. Reconnect. Inhale, reaching back toward the sky. Exhaling, deep swan dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold, planting the hands on the mat and floating into chaturanga. If it feels okay for your lower back and you don't hyperextend your shoulders, you can take a little puppy scoop here before you come into upward facing dog. Maybe taking this into a little bit of a cobra back bend. Exhale, down dog. Deep breath in and out through the nose. Coming into three-legged dog on the left side. Right foot comes toward the center of the mat. Left foot extends behind you. Opening that left hip, bending the left knee, and finding your wild thing. Left foot finds the floor behind you. Deep bend in through the left knee before you extend the back, sweeping the left hand all the way around you, finding the full expression of your pose, and then bending in through that left knee again, repositioning the left hand on the mat, coming back into three-legged dog. Inhaling. On the next exhale, bringing that left ankle over the top of the right knee, finding your figure four and sitting back on that left hip, grazing the floor behind you with the right hand, then replacing right hand on the mat, three-legged dog, extending the left foot high above you. Big inhale as you exhale, bringing that knee into the nose, placing the left foot in between the hands, and rising up on an inhale into warrior one. Deep inhale, deep exhale, focusing on the breath, then replacing the hands on the mat and coming back into three-legged dog. Full expression here, and then coming into your three-legged chaturanga on an exhale. Inhaling, upward facing dog. Option to take a little cobra back bend here. Exhale, down dog. Deep grounding breath in and out through the nose. Inhale, looking toward the top of the mat, and then floating to the top on the exhale. Inhale, looking forward. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, finding chair pose. As you exhale, we're coming into a prayer twist on the right, stacking that left elbow on top of the right knee, looking up toward the sky. Perhaps opening your wings here for a deeper twist. And you are more than welcome to stay here and continue deepening your twist. Or you can come into a side crow, anchoring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee and bringing the right elbow in toward the right hip. Taking your time, establishing the balance, remembering to breathe, keeping the heels of your feet as close together as possible. And then releasing, coming back to center. Taking a flat back on an inhale and exhaling, forward fold. On your next breath, coming into a chair pose. As you exhale, coming into a prayer twist on the left side, anchoring the right elbow over the left thigh. Opening your wings here, feeling a little bit of a deeper twist. And then preparing for your side crow on the left side, anchoring the left elbow into the left hip, anchoring the right elbow into the outside of the left knee. Breathing into this balance here. And then releasing, coming back to a forward fold. On an inhale, taking a flat back. And then exhaling a little bit more deeply into this forward fold. On the next breath, floating into chaturanga. Inhaling into upward facing dog. Exhaling, down dog. Coming into a three-legged dog on the left side. Right foot comes toward the center of the mat, left foot toward the sky. Opening the hip, bending the left knee, and finding your wild thing. Left foot slowly finds the floor behind you, taking a deep bend in through the left knee, and then extending the left knee a little bit more, finding the back bend, sweeping that left arm around you, and then replacing it on the mat. Coming back into your three-legged dog, sending the left foot high. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, finding that figure four. Left foot crosses over the right knee, sitting back on the left hip, grazing the floor behind you with the right hand, and then replacing the right hand, coming back into your three-legged dog. Left foot toward the sky. Deep inhale as you exhale, bringing the left knee in toward the nose, and then planting left foot in between the hands, rising up into warrior one. On the next breath, opening the arms, framing out that left foot, and then coming back into your three-legged dog, sending the left foot high, finding the full expression each time you come through three-legged dog, and exhaling, three-legged chaturanga, inhale, upward facing dog, option for a little cobra back bend. As you exhale, rolling over the toes into downward facing dog, stabilizing and grounding yourself with your breath. Inhale, coming up on the toes. Exhaling, floating to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back, extending the spine. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, right into chair pose. And as you exhale, flowing right back into your forward fold. On the next breath, taking another flat back, looking forward. Exhaling, forward fold. Deep breath, planting the hands firmly on the mat and floating into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, rolling over the toes into downward facing dog. Inhaling, bringing the right leg high into three-legged dog. As you exhale, bending that right knee, opening up the hips and beginning to find the floor behind you with the right leg, bending through the left leg to help you find your foot on the floor behind you, then pushing through the right foot, extending the hips toward the sky, finding your back bend here, sweeping that right arm around your body, then bringing the hips down to the floor, bending the right knee deeply before you push off that right foot again, bringing the hips back toward the sky and finding Wild Thing once more. Then coming back into your three-legged dog, replacing the right hand on the mat. Full extension here. Then on the next breath, finding your figure four, wrapping that right ankle over the left knee, dropping the right hip to the floor slowly, grazing the floor behind you with the left fingertips, then replacing the left hand and re-extending the right foot toward the sky in a three-legged dog. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, bringing the right knee in toward the chest, planting the right foot in between the hands, and rising up into warrior one. On your exhale, opening right up into warrior two. Shining the palms of your hands toward the sky, opening up the front body, flattening the thoracic region of the spine, finding strength in your posture. On the next breath, flowing right into an extended side angle, either supporting yourself on a block or bringing your hand or your fingertips to the floor behind the right ankle. If you'd like to, you can also bring your right elbow on top of your right knee, finding a nice long line of energy between the tips of the left fingers all the way down the side body to the tips of the left toes. If you'd like to, you can find a bound side angle here as well, reaching through the legs with the right arm and connecting both hands behind the back. opening that left shoulder up. And if you're ready for it, you can begin straightening the right leg, coming into a bound triangle. Then we're releasing both hands to the floor and very slowly shifting to bring the pelvis to face the top of the mat, coming into a pyramid pose, remembering to keep that left foot firmly planted on the mat behind you, taking an inhale, waving forward, and as you exhale, bringing your nose back to your shin. Once more, inhaling, waving forward, and exhaling, forward fold. On the next breath, we're taking the full journey into our revolved triangle, raising that right hand toward the sky, perhaps looking up toward the sky if you can. And then replacing the right hand on the floor, we're finding a lizard pose on the right side, rooting the left toes into the mat, lowering the hips to the floor, bringing them forward, lengthening through the crown, and bringing both the elbows to the floor underneath you. And you're welcome to deepen this pose by bringing the left knee towards the floor, bringing the chest closer to the floor as well. If you're up for the challenge, we're coming into Ekapada Kundinasana, floating one leg at a time off of the floor, finding your balance here. Left leg a little bit higher than the right, gaze is forward, and then in a controlled movement, releasing the left foot to the floor and extending the right leg back behind you into three-legged dog. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, finding three-legged chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Taking a deep breath here, coming up onto the toes, and then floating to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, nose to your shins. Inhale, finding chair pose, taking a deep seat here, and then following the exhale right into a forward fold once more. On the next breath, root to rise, standing tall, reaching toward the sky, and exhale, hands come to heart center. Inhale, reaching tall. Exhale, forward fold, deep swan dive. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Rooting your hands on the mat and floating back into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Option for this back bend. Exhale, down dog. Deep inhale, deep exhale, in and out through the nose. And then on your next inhale, following the breath, bringing that right foot to the center of the mat, extending left leg toward the ceiling, three-legged dog. Opening the hip, bending the left knee, finding the floor behind you with that left foot, taking a deep bend in through the left knee, and then bringing the hips toward the ceiling, extending left knee a little bit more, sweeping that left arm all the way around, touching the floor with the right hip, and then re-extending hips toward the sky, finding a nice deep back bend, fullest expression of your pose, and then deep bend in the left knee once more. Left hand finds the mat, three-legged dog, left foot toward the sky. And then flowing right into your figure four, bringing that left ankle to cross over the right knee. Left hip comes to the floor, right fingertips tap the floor behind you, and then circling that right hand high and wide, replacing the right hand on the mat, and then extending left foot back toward the sky. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, bringing that left knee in toward the nose, planting the left foot on the floor in between the hands, and rising up strong into a warrior one. And then as you exhale, opening up into warrior two. Palms of the hands toward the sky, shining your armpits right towards me. On the next breath, we're flowing right into our extended side angle. So you can find the floor behind you with the left hand, or perhaps use a block, or you can rest that left elbow on the left thigh. We're finding a nice, long, strong line of energy from the tip of the right fingers all the way down the right leg. You can also find a bound angle, reaching through and under that left leg, binding the right arm behind the back. And if you'd like to, you can go ahead and find your bound triangle here, slowly straightening that left knee if it feels good to you today. And then extending that right arm up above you once more, shifting the pelvis to face toward the top of the mat, finding a pyramid pose, bringing the nose down to the shin, remembering to root that right heel into the floor, taking a flat back on an inhale, waving the spine forward before you take another forward fold. Breathing into the back of the legs. And then we're finding our lizard pose, so taking a deep bend in through the left knee, perhaps bringing the right knee to the floor. If you'd like to, you can stay here and continue deepening your lizard pose, perhaps reaching under that left knee, bringing the chest closer to the floor. Or if you feel ready for this, you can begin reaching under that left leg, right elbow tucks strongly into the right ribs, left elbow tucks strongly under the left thigh, and then floating left and right leg off of the floor in a side split, finding the balance and the strength here, pointing the toes. Challenging yourself to take a deep breath in this pose, releasing the side split and either coming right back into a three-legged dog, keeping that left leg off of the ground, or you can stabilize yourself with a full downward facing dog, bringing both feet to the floor. Either way, meeting back in a three-legged dog with the left foot toward the sky, taking a few deep breaths here in this three-legged dog and then finding your three-legged chaturanga. Moving through this vinyasa in a slow, deliberate way. Inhale, upward facing dog, finding a little bit of a back bend here and looking toward the sky. Exhale, downward facing dog. We're taking a few deep breaths here, coming back into homeostasis, recentering your nervous system. Coming up onto your fingertips and checking the distribution of your weight. Then taking a little spinal roll, coming up onto the toes, looking toward the belly button while rounding the spine. Then as you come closer to a plank, finding the arch in your back, coming back into your downward facing dog and following the rhythm of your breath, breathing in and out through the nose. Taking a couple more spinal rolls, looking toward the belly button on an inhale, coming into your plank, and then shifting back into downward facing dog as you arch the back. And one more time, following your own breath and your own body's rhythm. Looking forward, coming up on the toes and floating to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back, looking forward. Exhale, nose to your shins. Inhale, right into a chair pose, taking 2 or 3 solid breaths. Sinking as deeply as you can and then exhaling right back into a forward fold. Inhale, standing tall, root to rise, looking toward the sky, and exhaling, bringing hands to heart center. You're doing beautifully, and I believe in you. Taking a moment here to recenter yourself. Deep breaths in and out through the nose. Inhale, reaching toward the sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. So follow the breath. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, finding a chair pose once more, lighting up the glutes and feeling that fire building even more in the lower body. And then coming into your prayer twist, bringing the left elbow to the top of the right knee. Opening your wings here, right hand floats toward the sky, finding a long line of energy between the tip of the right fingers and the tip of the left fingers on the floor. And then we're finding this side crow. Take a moment to establish your platform here. finding the stability that you need before you open your legs into a split, perhaps staying here if that's what feels right for you today. Or you can begin opening the legs into a split. And if you feel up for it, you can find your fallen angel by slowly bringing that right cheek to the floor, engaging the abdomen, pointing the left toes toward the sky, then tucking that left foot in toward the glutes, keeping the toes pointed, keeping the pressure off of your neck and engaging the core always. And then releasing your fallen angel, shifting through your side crow, counterbalancing the feet and bringing them back to the floor very slowly, coming right into a downward facing dog, finding a sense of stability here. Deep breath in and out through the nose. Then on the next inhale, extending the right leg toward the sky in a three-legged dog, taking a deep breath, and then opening the hip, bending the right knee, and coming into your wild thing. Finding the floor behind you with the right foot, bending in through the left leg, sweeping that right arm around you in a big circle, finding the full expression of your pose. And then bending through the right leg, finding the right arm on the floor once more, and extending right foot high toward the sky in a three-legged dog. And then finding your figure four, wrapping the right ankle over the left knee, right hip finds the floor, left fingertips graze the floor behind you. Looking behind you and then replacing left hand on the mat, coming back into three-legged dog, right foot toward the sky. Finding a full extension in your three-legged dog, and then bringing your knee in towards your nose, planting the right foot in between the hands and rising up on an inhale into Warrior One. Crown lengthens toward the ceiling. Shoulders are down. On your exhale, opening up into Warrior Two, palm of the hands toward the sky, grounding yourself into this warrior. Deepening your inhales and your exhales, focusing yourself on your breath. Then reaching forward, hips shift to the left, and finding your triangle. Left hand toward the sky, opening that left shoulder as much as possible. We're flowing right into half moon. Left hand reaches toward the sky, continuing to roll that left shoulder open, focusing on keeping the front body in a flat plane. Then replacing the left foot on the floor, coming into your reverse warrior, reaching that right arm behind you, opening up the right side body, and then cartwheeling right and left hands to frame out the right foot. Opening up in a twist here, finding this lunge and reaching toward the sky with the right hand. Following the breath, replacing the right hand, and then coming back into your three-legged dog, right foot toward the sky. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, coming into three-legged chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, looking toward the top of the mat and then hopping in between your hands. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale right into chair pose, feeling the rhythm of your breath and letting it guide you through each pose. Exhaling, forward fold. Root to rise, standing tall, reaching toward the sky, and as you exhale, hands come to heart center. Deep, grounding, centering breath here. And then inhale, reaching toward the sky, taking a slight back bend, and then exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, coming into chair pose. And then flowing into a prayer twist, right elbow finds the outside of the left knee. Opening your wings, left hand toward the sky. And then we're coming into our side crow. So positioning yourself to find your balance here, anchoring both elbows into the side of the left leg. Shifting your weight here to find the balance. And if you feel ready for it, you can open up the legs into a split. And if you feel comfortable here and you're ready for it, you can tip the left cheek toward the floor, engaging the abdomen and finding your fallen angel. Maybe tucking that right foot in toward the hip a little bit more than I have here. It feels healthier for my knees to leave the lower leg a little bit more extended here. But if it's good for you, you can tuck it in. Now to exit this pose, you're going to come through your side crow once more, bringing that left leg back in toward the right knee, then tipping both feet back toward the floor. And if you'd like to, you can challenge yourself by coming right into your three-legged dog, not allowing that left leg to touch the floor. Eventually, we're going to meet back in our three-legged dog with the left leg extended high behind us, either coming through your downward-facing dog, or perhaps not letting that left foot touch the floor, extending it right behind you as you transition out of your side crow, following the wisdom of your body here. Opening the hip, bending the left knee, and finding your wild thing. Left foot slowly finds the floor behind you. Deep bend in through the left knee, and then pushing the hips toward the sky. Big circle with that left hand all the way around the body. Then meeting the left hand with the right on the floor once more, extending left leg toward the sky in a three-legged dog. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, finding that figure four. Left foot crosses over the right knee, sitting back on the left hip. Right fingertips graze the floor behind you, and then flowing right back into your three-legged dog, unwinding that left leg back toward the sky. Inhale. As you exhale, bringing that left knee in toward the nose and then planting it in between the hands. Inhale, rising up, warrior one. Exhaling right into warrior two, palms of the hands toward the sky, taking up as much space on your mat as you can. Feeling into this warrior, feeling the strength, the stability, and the confidence of this pose, taking note of the way that this pose affects you emotionally in your body. Then reaching forward with the left hand, hips float toward the right, and we're reaching toward the sky with the right hand into a triangle pose. Flowing right into half moon, reaching forward, right foot comes high. Reaching toward the sky with the right hand. Then replacing the right leg on the floor, reaching back with the left hand into a reverse warrior, and then cartwheeling left and right hand to frame out the left foot, coming into a lunge twist here, opening that left hand toward the sky, looking up, and then replacing left hand on the floor. Left foot comes back into a three-legged dog. Inhale, and as you exhale, finding three-legged chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. Coming up on the fingertips. Walking out the dog here a little bit and re-grounding yourself. Taking a spinal roll, inhaling, rounding the spine, exhale, arching back into downward facing dog. And then looking forward, coming up on the toes and floating to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back, extending the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flowing right into your chair pose, building that muscle. Exhale, forward fold. On the next breath, Begin bringing the heels a little bit wider than hip width distance apart, and then go ahead and sink the hips down toward the mat, bringing the elbows to the inside of the knees, hands come to heart center. Taking a deep breath in here. And then begin finding yourself in a reclined position. Knees come in toward your chest, perhaps taking a little bit of a circle here with the knees and giving yourself a lower back massage. And then lowering your hands and your feet to the floor, pressing in through the palms, and one vertebrae at a time, begin lifting the tailbone off of the floor and coming into your bridge pose. Knees are over the ankles, lengthening the back of the neck and bringing the chin down toward the chest, perhaps holding on to the ankles if you feel like it, or you can intertwine the fingers and clasp them. Take 1 or 2 breaths here to drop in and find your center. And as you exhale, begin lowering the top of the spine one vertebrae at a time. Tailbone comes down last. And on the next breath, you can come either back into your bridge pose, lifting the hips toward the sky, perhaps clasping the hands underneath the back, or you can come into a wheel pose if this feels accessible for you today, lifting the hips toward the sky, pressing in through the shoulders and emphasizing the bend in the upper portion of the spine, perhaps bringing the heels down toward the floor, or you can come up onto the balls of the feet depending on what type of stretch you'd like to feel in your back and in your hips. Taking about 5 breaths here, in and out through the nose. And when you're done with your 5 breaths, begin lowering the hips slowly down toward the floor once more. Take a counter stretch here. Bring the knees in toward the chest. Give yourself a little hug. And then engaging the core, come up into a boat pose, extending the legs out in front of you, either keeping the knees bent with your shins parallel to the floor, or you can straighten the knees, pointing the toes up. On an inhale, bringing the feet about 2 inches above the floor, lowering the back, and then as you exhale, engaging the core, coming back up into boat pose. Another 2 times. Inhale, lowering. Exhale, coming back up. And then find yourself back in a reclined position and make your way back into bridge or wheel. Focus on taking 5 concentrated breaths. You count. And if you've chosen a wheel pose today and you'd like the extra challenge, you can begin floating the right leg toward the sky, pointing the right toes upward. Taking a couple of solid, concentrated breaths, and then releasing right leg back to the floor, switching to the left side, pointing the left toes toward the sky, remembering that you can come up on the ball of the foot, or you can keep that heel anchored to the mat, your preference. After a few concentrated breaths, go ahead and lower that left leg back to the mat, slowly bringing the hips back to the floor. Hugging the knees in again. Then on the next breath, we're extending the feet above the hips and coming into a shoulder stand. Hands supporting the lower back, lengthening the back of the neck. And then shifting the feet back behind you, coming into your plow pose. Pressing the palms of the hands into the mat or interlacing the fingers, clasping the hands, your choice. On the next breath, go ahead and slowly take your time, releasing your hips back onto the mat. And at your own pace, finding happy baby, hands to the outsides of the feet, knees toward the floor. And then release the feet back to the mat. Then bring the soles of the feet together, knees apart, finding a reclined butterfly, one hand to your belly and the other hand to your heart. Taking a moment to listen to the wisdom of your body, seeing how it speaks to you, and seeing what comes up for you as you begin to integrate the physical work that you've done. Noticing the way that your energy perhaps has shifted since the beginning of your practice, and thanking yourself for showing up today. And then we're finding a supine twist here, extending left leg out in front of you, hooking the right toes behind the left knee, extending right hand out to the side, and then bending the right knee over toward the side, looking over the right shoulder, anchoring that right shoulder to the mat, taking a few deep breaths. Then releasing, coming to the other side, extending the right leg out, hooking the left toes behind the right knee, and letting that left knee twist over to the right, looking out over the left hand, both shoulders anchored to the mat. And then releasing that left leg, coming into Savasana, extending both feet out in front of you, closing the eyes, arms come to the sides, palms of the hands face toward the sky, feeling your body settling into the stability of the earth beneath you, feeling the earth as it rises up to support your body, feeling an even deeper sense of relaxation begin to sweep across your body as you feel yourself melting into the earth. Taking a moment now to bring the awareness from the tips of your toes over the tops of your feet, letting your awareness touch your shins, your knees, your thighs, and your awareness travels from your hips up to your solar plexus, traveling up to your chest, out across the sternum to the shoulders, down the shoulders to the elbows. Awareness now travels down into the wrists of each hand, and the light of your awareness fills up each fingertip, feeling your hands completely saturated with glowing light. Then feel this awareness as it travels up to your neck, up your chin, across your cheekbones, feeling this awareness touching your nose, your eyes, your lips, your teeth, the roof of your mouth and your tongue, feeling your whole head saturated with light and a peaceful sense of calm. Now feeling this light as it completely saturates your entire body, fully integrating the work that you've done here today. Taking a moment now to consciously release any stagnant or negative energy that you accidentally began to carry with you. Feeling the lightness of releasing this burden and coming home to who you really are, confident, calm, and centered within your soul. Feeling cleansed, refreshed, and brought back to your baseline of wellness, the wellness that you always have been, and the wellness that you always will be, because this state of well-being is your divine birthright. Breathing in the fresh prana that you've cultivated today, feeling that fresh positive energy as it flows throughout your system. On each exhale, releasing any old stagnant energy that no longer serves your highest well-being. Beginning to bring a little bit more life into the fingers and the toes, bringing yourself back up to the surface level of physical reality. When you feel ready to, begin rolling over toward the left side, coming into the fetal position, and then pressing into the floor with the right hand, coming back up into a seated pose. With love, namaste. And if you're looking for something similar, check out this next video.